Tyranny is a 2016 RPG by Obsidian Entertainment, the fine folks and Chris Avalon behind Knights of the Old Republic 2, New Vegas, Pillars of Eternity, The Outer Worlds, and others. It's an isometric RPG based on the same engine used in Pillars of Eternity, but with a more simplified leveling and combat system. It's hella fun, and this isn't a review, so I won't go too much into the details of the game's mechanics. What I will talk about is what kind of world Tyranny's story takes place in, and what that means for the player character. It is the year 431 of the reign of Kairos. The who and what of Kairos are unknown. She's viewed as the closest thing the setting has to a god, and she's conquered the entire known world except for the Tiers, the region where the game takes place. Gotta leave something to the player. Quick side note, I'm gonna be using she throughout the video because that's the pronoun that Tunon uses, though it bears pointing out that he himself scoffs at the idea that gender applies in any way, shape, or form to Kairos. Because Kairos is all about that management, she sent two Archons, effectively demigods, to finish the conquest in her name. In one corner, there's Graven Ash, the Archon of War, a staunchly conservative fantasy fascist and father figure to his ethnically pure troops. In the other, the voices of Nerat, the Archon of Secrets. 1,000 personalities in a trench coat leading a chaotic mass of might-makes-right ne'er-do-wells. A third Archon, Tunon, the Archon of Justice, is there to oversee the whole kerfuffle since Ash and the voices can't stand each other. And then there's you. You're one of Tunon's Fatebinders, which might sound impressive until you realize it's just a fancy name for a fantasy bureaucrat. With the power of middle management at your disposal, you're tasked with helping the Archons take the region in the name of Kairos. One of the Overlord's most powerful weapons are the Edicts, big magics that go boom, or fizzit or sh or kaplonk, depending on the type of edict. Your first job as Mordor's middle manager is to proclaim the edict that sets the story in motion, the Edict of Execution. Either the Archons conquer the Tiers in the allotted time, or everyone, friend, foe, flora, fauna, gym, dies by magic. You need to find a way to stop the Archons from killing each other and maybe, just maybe, concentrate on killing the people they were sent to kill before time runs out. To complicate things, the Tiers are riddled with ancient spires, tremendously high buildings of unknown origin. Your actions during the conquest awakens one of them. You soon find they hold immense power, just waiting to be claimed. As setups go, it's pretty sweet. Now, before we continue, I will be spoiling the story here and there, so take that into consideration. If you'd rather have me not spoil it for you, I respect your wishes. I'll be ignoring them, but with deep respect. Tyranny, like most RPGs, is a game based on choices. How you choose to deal with the various warring factions determines the course of the story, or rather, your version of the story. You get plenty of opportunities to shape the tale of the little Fatebinder that could, but there are certain situations where you're forced down a path you can't get off of. You've got a window in which you can join the rebels, after which it's commitment time. In my first playthrough, I didn't join them, thinking I could try to break the system from within. While I had some leeway in that department, there was at least one situation in which I had to do Tyranny's version of No Russian. The leader of the clan of puppy people that lived in the canyon my troops needed to pass through was adamant that I go fuck myself because I sided with Graven Ash, known puppy killer and general dog hater. I would have loved an option to let me turn on Ash at that point because I'd much rather cut a bloody swath through a bunch of purple fashy dipshits than turn on the puppy people, but them's the breaks. The end result was a much more tragic story than I was prepared for. Call me a masochist and tell me I'm a bad boy, but I like a good emotional gut punch in a controlled environment. That feeling when a story slips the knife in and twists.
Pathos. It's called pathos. I like pathos.
Now, would I have preferred a chance to change my mind? Yes, very much so. But in this story, you're working for the baddies. This isn't a matter of personal interpretation, it's the central conceit of the game. Let's look at the main actors. Kairos is a tyrant, a seemingly omnipotent totalitarian whose word is both physical and metaphysical law. She desires complete and utter subjugation and suffers no disloyalty. Tunon is obsessed with justice but subjugates it to the will of Kairos. What the Overlord decrees is, by definition, just. I would argue that makes Tunon less the Archon of Justice and more the Archon of Rules lawyering, but I guess that wasn't catchy enough. Craven Ash is a ruthless authoritarian who despises all those not of his northern blood, killing any that stand in his way. Voices of Narat is a sadistic monster that revels in torture and mutilation. It absorbs its enemies' minds, adding them to the chorus of voices that rattle in its noggin. Bonus Archon, Bleeden Mark, the Archon of Shadows. He's Kairos' executioner, the blade in the dark that makes quick work of any threat to Kairos. We'll get back to him a bit later. By the beginning of the game, they've already conquered the rest of the world and left some places uninhabitable as a result of Match K bombs. With them, you either bend the knee or die. Sometimes you bend the knee and die, it depends. The bottom line is, management is evil. Bad people send you out to do bad things, and their power extends everywhere. There is nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. And in the middle of all that, choice. Here's how my first game ended. The Fatebinder awakens the dormant spires and starts issuing their own edicts left, right, and center. Edicts to the left of them, edicts to the right of them. Kairos has the entirety of the known world at her disposal, while the Fatebinder has a couple of towers and a dream. That evens out, right? Turns out not so much. Kairos sends an army, but she wisely decides to withdraw when it's clear that the little Fatebinder that could has the fucking hubris to hurl an edict her way. This does not for a moment change the fact that Kairos has a massive supply of soldiers and millennia of experience and magic on her side. There's gonna be a reckoning. With that, tyranny ends. In the end, for me, the story was about change in a world that seemed immutable. As far as everyone was concerned, Kairos always was and always would be. Her power was unique, her person sacrosanct. The mightiest of the mighty couldn't touch her, until someone could. The fact that the Fatebinder needs MacGuffins to reach the heights, metaphorical and literal, necessary to knock the Overlord down a peg, doesn't change anything. We're not in Chosen One territory, or at least we don't need to be. Here's why. No one knows where the Overlord's power comes from, but the spires imply it's not unique. The fact the Fatebinder managed to open the first spire might have been an accident, might have been part of Kairos' plan. It might have been preordained, or it might have been an unforeseen side effect of proclaiming and ending an edict. Whatever it was, it shows that others can achieve what Kairos achieved. And that means the status is on its way to stop being quo. The myth of Kairos begins to unravel. In order for a myth to stand unopposed, a lot of work is needed in the background. That's why Bleeden Mark is not only necessary, he's crucial. Myths exist only in stories. The real world, the physical world, can't sustain them. Tyranny's world can't sustain them. When someone gets too uppity, in comes Bleeden Mark and cuts them down. The myth endures because the things that would show its fragility are hidden away before too many people notice them. Whether the Fatebinder chooses to bend the knee to Kairos or defy her, the circumstances have been changed. A precedent has been set. The myth is revealed to be a myth, a story, not universal law. What about our Fatebinder? Are they evil? That depends on how you play them. Yes, they can be just as terrible as management. The possibility is there, and it's the path that's easiest to walk because it's management's job to pay for the Fatebinder and others like them. But are they, one of the many cogs, evil by default? They are, after all, part of an evil machine. Presumably, the evil machine is made out of evil parts. But a track on a tank and a tractor won't find itself in similar situations. Trudging through a war zone and working the field yield very, very different results. Consider this. If a system rules supreme, if an entire world is ruled by evil, I will be part of that system. This isn't a matter of choice, it is an unavoidable reality. I was born into that system. I had no say in the matter, and neither did anyone else. I am more than a cog, but I am nonetheless a cog. To ignore that would be to ignore a part of what influences my life, my actions, my options. Unavoidability does not change the nature of the system. Since the starting choices are participation or death, participation becomes the only option. If I'm dead, that's it. My direct individual agency stops completely, utterly, and without exceptions. It's the your money or your life conundrum. When a highwayman has you at gunpoint, the choice isn't between handing over your money and dying. The money might be important, but it's largely inconsequential. Once you're dead, there's nothing stopping them from just taking it. The actual question is, do you want to live or die? If the choice is participation or death, and I choose not death, I would do well to take care how I participate. Is the myth of the system's perennial and unavoidable nature true, or is it just that? A myth, a story, a framework to make sure the machine keeps on chugging. A tank will get us from point A to point B, but so will a tractor, so will a car, so will a bicycle. There are and were many systems, many machines, many myths. If I am to be a cog in one machine, I should remember that I could also be a cog in another. I should remember that the divine right of kings was once thought an immutable fact of life and a perennial rule of society. I should remember that Kairos was once thought unassailable.
Thanks for getting to the end of the video. Here, have some doggos. Smash the like button, click on subscribe, and we'll do this again sometime. Look at that little pupper go. Anyways, I'm out.